masters, you will have to give up this or that. Many of you might fear you have to give up sex, for example. This is probably the most common fear of students on the spiritual path, to be quite honest with you. And so, the alternative is always, look at yourself, look at your MO relating to sex, and look at your MO relating to sex and how it interacts with your MO about the spiritual path, and see that you have two internal spirits that are clashing with each other. And then recognize that there will be a spirit of the spiritual path that is projecting that if you step higher on the path, you have to give up sex, and there will be the other spirit that screams, no, no, you can't do this. And then you can come to the point where you realize these are just spirits, this is not me. And you can transcend it, my beloved. You can transcend both of them and realize that by simply switching your mind in your attitude to spirituality and your attitude to sex and your attitude to the interaction between the two, you can just still enjoy sexual activity and be on the spiritual path. It is, like was said in a previous dictation, there can come a point where you have actually almost qualified for your ascension, but you have followed an ascetic path of withdrawing yourself from worldly activities. But if you do not fully accept being in a physical body, and if you are not able to enjoy the activities you can do with a physical body, you cannot leave the earth behind. You cannot actually ascend. And so you could say that surely there are many dark forces, entities and demons that are attempting to use the sex drive to lure people into various downward spirals that drain their energy. And surely there could be a time where you will have to discipline yourself so that you are not pulled into these negative spirals. This is why there has been traditionally all of this talk that sexual people need to abstain from sex. Some of you have done this in past lifetimes and have needed to do so. But it is always possible to step up to a higher view and say, what kind of body am I living in? Is it a friendly body or a hostile body? And you will find that many, many spiritual people actually think that their physical body is hostile to their spiritual growth. And then you can work on this, process this, and you can come to accept that you live in a friendly universe, you live in a friendly body, and while you are in this body, there are certain activities you can do with the body, and it really isn't sinful or anti-spiritual to enjoy those activities. Be it sex, being eating a good meal, being interacting with people who are not in a spiritual teaching, but who are nevertheless good people. They are your family and you enjoy being with them. What could possibly be unspiritual about this when you look at it from a neutral perspective that is not trapped in this black and white thinking? And so you can even go on and look at your physical health, and you can begin to ask yourself, am I living in a hostile body or a friendly body? And then, even if you have some disease that is tormenting you, you can still, if you are willing, work on this, your attitude to the physical body. What is your MO? What are your expectations of what can and cannot happen? What do you really think of this body, and especially in relation to your spiritual growth? And you can come to a point where you can come to accept that you live in a friendly body that is capable of and willing to support your spiritual growth. And some of you will find that this can bring the healing of diseases that you have not been able to shake off. Others may not be healed of a physical condition, but you will find a way to be at peace with it, so that it doesn't hinder your spiritual growth. And so, again, this is one of these dictations where we throw an awful lot of ideas at you. And we do this, of course, because it is not so often that you come together in a big group of people. We do this also because many of you in this particular group have reached a level on the path to Christhood where you are ready for this teaching, or at least a certain element of it. So again, you do not need to go home afterwards and read this dictation and look at every element I have given you and think that you have to study it and apply it all at once. You need to find something, one thing in there that appeals to you at your present level. Then you use it, you integrate it, and use it to step up to a higher level. Then you may reread this dictation and find that there is something else for you. I encourage you to study the dictation I gave in Korea about Christhood and the discourse by Gautama Buddha from Korea, and see that they actually form sort of the alpha, but whereas this dictation and some of the answers you have received at this conference form the omega, a more practical, direct, down-to-earth approach. And so what I want to leave you with is this. The Holy Spirit bloweth where it listeth, it has been said. This is actually a statement that is not the highest view of the situation. The Holy Spirit doesn't blow where it listed, it just blows. And it blows constantly, and it flows constantly. Now, the reason why the statement was given was that many people at the time could not understand why sometimes some person would have the flow of the Spirit, other times another, and sometimes none would have it. And they couldn't understand why, because they looked at this with the outer mind. Even my disciples tended to do this and create some sort of a hierarchy among the disciples, some sort of rank, where who was at the top, who was the most advanced. And unfortunately, Peter often thought that he was at the top, whereas in reality he was the lowest consciousness of any of the disciples. And so these outer evaluations actually block the flow of the Spirit, because the key to having the flow of the Spirit is to be neutral, to be in that state that you can have all experienced in glimpses, and that you can cultivate, where it is almost like you are standing still and there's nothing that pulls you in any direction. You can also call it pure awareness, but you are neutral. You are interacting with another person, but you don't have a judgment about what that person should be told or what that person should accept. You don't have a desire to convert that person. You don't even have a desire to help that person. You don't have a particular expectation of what should be said or what should happen or how the other person should react. You're just neutral. And that is when you are the open door. That is when the Spirit can flow through you, my beloved. If you look at the phenomenon of giving dictations and the many channelers out there, you can see that the channelers who are not neutral always tune into a lower level, the emotional, the mental, the low identity realm. And so what they come through them may have some true ideas in it, but it also has some distorted ideas. And there is not a vibration that sets people free. And so the more neutral the messenger or the channeler can be, the more pure will be the message coming through them. But the more neutral you can be, as you are listening to or reading a dictation, the more profound will be the insights you can get. Because another aspect of the Holy Spirit is not that you necessarily speak, but also that you receive some insight that clearly comes from a higher level of your mind or from us. And so this is sort of the internal flow of the Spirit, and when you speak, it is the external flow of the Spirit. But both are very much part of your path. There comes a point, as we have said, where Christhood that is not expressed is not Christhood, and where you must step up from, instead of always studying the teaching and taking it in, you start giving it out. And so that is when you experience that Alpha and Omega flow of the Holy Spirit, where you gain insights and you use them to help others. But many times you find that when you are actually speaking to others, you suddenly get ideas that you had never thought of before. You suddenly have an insight that you had never had before. And this is the flow of the Holy Spirit. It is not a spectacle. It is not some dramatic event. It is actually something you have all experienced. And I'm simply saying, by becoming more conscious of this, by following some of the hints I have given you here, you can increase the frequency where you have this being in a neutral frame of mind. It may take some work for some, because it involves freeing yourself from the pull of some of these external things that are seeking to drag you into a reactionary pattern. It may actually mean that some of you will have to go through a certain process where you consider something very simple. Do I, as a human being, have to have opinions? Most of you have been brought up that you should have opinions. You should have opinions about this political party or that political party or this issue or that issue. But you can come to a point where you recognize that the vast majority of the opinions that human beings have actually come from their internal spirits, which are then under the influence of collective spirits. So many times you have two people who have opposite opinions on an issue, but it is simply because these are two spirits that are having an argument through the two people. And so you can come to that point where you ask yourself, is this really how I want to interact with other people? By always expressing my opinion and always seeking to change their opinion. Would it not be possible to come to a point where, when I interact with others, I am neutral? And therefore I am open to saying something with no preconceived intention, but something that comes from a higher source and can enlighten me and may actually enlighten the other person, but not with any intent from my conscious mind. I just allow it to happen. There are many people throughout the ages who have attempted to go through various efforts, various rituals, in order to get the Holy Spirit. There are black magicians who have attempted to create some kind of method, some kind of device that will give them mechanically a flow of the Spirit. They have never had a flow of the Holy Spirit. They may have a flow of some collective spirit that can seem powerful, but it is not the Holy Spirit. You cannot force the Holy Spirit. That is also why it was said that the Holy Spirit flowed where it listed. You cannot force it, my beloved, but you can receive it. But the thing is, for you to receive it, there must be room. And if your mind is so filled up with opinions, there may not be room for the Spirit to express itself. And so, I would like to set you free. I would like to give you permission to be free of all of these human opinions. And you might actually feel that when you let go of some of these opinions, it is as if you are set free from some kind of treadmill where your mind suddenly no longer has to feel that this opinion is constantly threatened, and you are looking for threats. And when you read something on the internet that might threaten this opinion, then you feel agitated. Or when you meet people who have the different opinion, you have to go into an argument and try to change their mind. And all of a sudden, you will feel that this is not draining your energy, and you will feel so much better about yourself for having given up this human opinion. And I can assure you that you will probably encounter someone you have known for a long time who will look at you and say, "What's wrong with you? You don't have any opinions anymore." But look at how they feel about themselves and compare to how you now feel about yourselves. And then say, where would I rather be? In that person's mind or in my mind? And then it is not so hard to give up all of these opinions that actually don't make you feel better about yourself, don't make you feel better about the world. They don't help you feel you're living in a friendly universe. They don't help you feel you are interacting with friendly masters. They don't help you feel you're in a friendly body. Think about this. If your goal is to feel better about yourself, about the ascended masters, about the material world, and about the physical body, then look at everything that pulls on your attention and ask yourself whether it helps you feel better or doesn't help you feel better. And if it doesn't help you feel better, then you have my permission to give it up. Because I can assure you that if something doesn't help you feel better about yourself and the world you are living in and the masters, it is not helping your spiritual growth. It is not helping you move towards Christhood. And so, my beloved, if you will notice how some of you are shifting a little bit in your chairs and find it difficult sitting still, it is simply because we have now reached a point where I have given you as much as you can handle. And although I wish I could go on for another hour or two, I recognize the simple fact that the physical universe sets certain limitations for our interaction in this way. But the physical universe sets no limitations for how you and I or another master can interact directly within your minds. And we do not desire to have ascended master students who forever think that the only way they can interact with the ascended masters is through a messenger and outer teaching. We want all of you to come to the point where you have direct interaction with us within your heart, within your mind. And so with this, I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming together for this this Pentecost celebration. And I can assure you that Mother Mary's calls that these conferences were important was not given in vain, as she might tell you about after you have paid attention to the needs of the physical body. And thus, my beloved, I thank you once again, my gratitude, and I can assure you that it is a supreme joy for me to have a group of students who are willing to allow me to speak so freely and so openly. Had I only been able to do this constantly for these past 2,000 years, the world truly would have been